Hi, Khan.
Hi, nice to have you here. We did
Yeah,
have
thanks for having me.
small chats, but to be honest, I didn't still even mention what Scalar North Capital is. So maybe we should start first. Welcome. We are really happy to have you here. But maybe we can start with who is Sam and what does Scalar North Capital does, and then we will continue with our question.
Oh, yeah. Hi everyone. I'm Sam, principal at Scalar North. We are a private investment vehicle, family office. We like to invest across the real estate space. So Proptech is one of several verticals for us. We define the wider environment as the built environment. So anything that interacts with physical infrastructure, Proptech is a vertical, construction tech, smart cities, smart buildings, clean climate, green tech, kind of all that stuff. It's super broad. We also invest in some other non-real estate verticals. We've got a couple of fintech investments, some gaming, health and fitness. So a huge range. And then we look to make investments in the UK, Europe, Israel, and the US. So that's a whistle-stop tour on us.
That sounds really good. I think we already shared your LinkedIn profile. Maybe our team can also share Scalar North Capital's website. At least the prop tech companies who are interested in the program and also your investment company, they can check it out, maybe ask relevant questions. But we already have like some discussions because, as you said, like there are so many different verticals and they're merging together. So I would like to talk starting first, like emerging trends. Like what do you see overall in PropTech when we talk about PropTech? What kind of emerging technologies that you are seeing, and what makes you happy or excited in terms of like companies or startups tackling those kind of problems?
So for us, what we really like seeing at the moment is the sustainable push from the prop tech and the wider real estate space. So I think you mentioned your introduction that real estate is the largest asset class in the world, but it's also one of the largest carbon polluters. So there's a big push and a big conscious effort to reduce the carbon output, and loads of decarbonisation technologies are coming forward. So, we're seeing a huge amount of stuff in the Industry 4.0 world, so your smart cities, smart buildings, technologies around kind of HVAC systems and heat pumps that reduce the cost of heating and cooling in large buildings. We're seeing loads of generative AI at the moment. A lot of that is geared towards design rendering. It's also geared towards lot of design rendering at the moment. And then we're looking at sustainable materials and processes. So there's a big push with circular economy at the moment, and actually breaking down buildings in a sustainable way and reusing materials where possible. In part, there's a big mandate in Europe at the moment where property planning has to go through a circular economy kind of tunnel almost. So that has to be incorporated into the planning. So there's a big push on that, and I think what we're expecting to see off the back of that is a lot of kind of multi-use assets. So your single use purpose built buildings will probably be more of a thing of the past as developers start to think about different ways they can use a property. So we're expecting a lot more exciting technologies as well in terms of retrofitting and modular design and modular building, where 5, 10, 15 years down the line, actually technologies are present that can kind of reuse the asset in different ways. So yeah, that's sort of what a lot was coming to our desk. We've got one in our portfolio, actually, a company called Converge. They're a decarbonizing technology, hardware and software B2B, and it's all about the data capturing in concrete materials and processes to reduce the use of concrete in the build process and therefore reduce the overall kind of carbon emission.
I mean, especially carbon emissions is one of the biggest questions or the topics, I think, overall what we are seeing in the world. And as you said, like wherever you see now, I'm sitting in a real estate. There are so many building materials of it. We live in real estate. We work in real estates, and that's kind of like most of the resources as humans where we put it. So that's definitely an interesting aspect of it. And we tend to see a lot of like anti-carbon emission materials, which is a great thing. Like we every day we kind of like come up with new companies trying to provide solutions in different regions. And of course, those companies require some investment because property itself is the biggest asset class, depending on how you are kind of doing the business. But the investment is an important part of it. So as a VC, at the end of the day, I can imagine what kind of things that you are looking for. But in terms of Proptech, especially with your experience, because I think you have a different model in terms of your value proposition. It's not just money, it's quite smart money. Would you care to elaborate on how do you choose the companies that you are planning to invest? So what makes you tick when you see a founder or business plan?
Yeah, so our criteria. So generally speaking, the way we look at Proptech isn't different to how we look at other verticals. We have four main buckets at Scalar North that we put companies into. And these are actually by order. So the main thing for us, or probably the largest bucket, is the market. So market size, market competition, and also timing. So things like social and regulatory tailwinds are quite a big kind of part of that. And in Proptech especially, the regulatory tailwinds I just mentioned about the circular economy mandate in Europe. There's various other things in the UK and across the world which are pushing on innovation. So that's our first bucket. The second is the team. And we're really looking for why the team itself and the makeup of the team are the best cohort of people to solve the problem that they're addressing. So the common term is founder market fit, so to speak. So it's all around that. The third bucket is the product. So you're talking about the innovation of the product and the differentiation. And then the fourth bucket is the execution. So things such as the financials and the metrics, and things like go to market and how they're executing their plans. So I think with Proptech, though, which is interesting, is because it's the largest asset class in the world, there's two real advantages to the Proptech space. So firstly is as we said, a large asset class. So you really can solve for if you can solve for a pervasive problem, so something that affects many, you can actually capture, or you can have, a huge obtainable market. So it's a market in which you can create a lot of value, and you can drive real value and real solutions through technologies. And then the second interesting part about Proptech is the real estate space in general is quite slow. Well, it's notoriously slow to adopt tech. So there are very smart ways you can actually digitize processes and procedures that again drive real value. We've got a company in our another portfolio company called Visaline. They're based in Finland, and it's a workflow management tool. So it's great because it's pervasive. So the tool can be applied to any building site across the world. It's not a UK focus, or it's not a France or Germany focus, but any building site. And it drives real value on large scale products. So the project. So the savings that it creates, the technology, it goes into the hundreds of thousands per project. So it's a real tangible cost saving they're providing, and they're doing really well.
I mean, I don't have any doubts because, as you said, like when you think about like a property development itself, so many people are working. There are so many different workflows in terms of the field, and also even the paperwork, because it comes with a lot of stages. So they need really specific tools to run those processes. And we started to have few questions from Nathan. I'm going to come back to that because you're an investor. Of course, everybody is interested. What is like the ticket size? When do you invest, and do you lead any kind of deals? So if you want, we can have it like an intermission. What you can just answer that part as well.
Yeah, happy to answer that. So I think the question was what stage, what are ticket sizes, and do we lead? So typically look to invest in seed Series A. But for us, it's more about the stage of the business. So we like to take on commercial risk rather than development risk. So companies which have a product, an MVP, a proof of concept, and actually a bit more than that, they have some traction, they have some early customers, and one of our hurdles is a £10,000 MRR figure. So if you're above that hurdle, please come and speak to us. Our ticket sizes range. I would say a sweet spot's probably a few £100,000. But we can, we can go up to a couple of million, and obviously we can come in with a smaller ticket. We have led investments before. We'll typically lead, or if we do lead an investment, I should say, it will probably be in this real estate world, because that's really a lot more of our DNA. But we do a lot of following as well. We're happy to co-invest or follow on around, or lead if the circumstances are right.
I mean, Anatoly, sorry, also asked like how much MRR would it be? Do you have any kind of like revenue perspective, like expectation? Because you are saying that it's after MVP, so you can say that maybe it's not even clear.
Yeah. So for us, our threshold for MRR is £10,000.
Okay.
£10,000 a month or £120,000 a
It's
year. That's sort of the entry level which we start considering. But
exactly.
of course, we look at businesses which have a million in recurring revenue annually. So it can, we look at larger as well.
I mean, to be honest, like £10,000 or dollars technically shows you that you kind of started. You're a business. Something less than that could be a little bit hobby, like early stage trying and error. So it is quite relevant. But probably if they are looking for to raise like 2 million from you, they need to be through their like business model and maybe a little bit more valid pipeline of clients or already like contracts. So let's go back to the challenges, because we always have like early stage companies in any vertical, they have their challenges. If you think about the prop tech specifically, how do you feel that is there a different problem in prop tech domains? And do you think that this is kind of an opportunity for some of the companies? How do you think that?
So yeah, of course, there's problems and challenges in startups in general and in any vertical, but in prop tech especially, I think what's interesting, which we notice, is early traction is actually very, very difficult to get in the real estate space, and it's a combination of a few things, and it's as I mentioned before, the industry is quite slow to adopt technology. There are some forward-thinking businesses, but really the large players and even a lot of mid-market, things have been done a certain way, and they like to keep them that way. The processes are done like this, the systems are this, so they're averse to moving. I think one of the best ways and the best things to get around that is, to partner with accelerators, to partner with good investors, to partner with strategic, partners or corporates who can actually open those early doors and those initial doors. And I think you mentioned our model, as well as providing money, is this idea of smart money. So we have a great network in the space, in the industry, in the UK and Europe, and we often help segue technologies into our LPs, our corporate partners, to trial them, to kind of sandbox them, to help them develop their products, and it goes both ways, because we help them and they also help us get a really good insight of the business. And it might be before we've even invested. So, we can kind of track the technology in a trial setting. And that for us really helps our thesis and our assessment.
I mean, I can imagine that, because, for example, in fintech, that's kind of a highly regulated industry as well, or healthcare. Generally, over there, the biggest problem is maybe getting the first license, because technically, before the license, you are uncommercial. You shouldn't do business. And in property industry, the established companies are so big, so you cannot go head to head. So you need to choose your like maybe first clients or strategic partners, and for you to providing the both capital and maybe a headway for an industry, I think that's kind of a quite strong value proposition in terms of an investor point of view. And again, I think this would be the last question that we are going to discuss now. We would be happy to forward to you any questions that we get after that, for sure. Maybe we will get you back on the demo days. We will talk about the overall plans and program. But for the aspiring startups, I'm sure that because some people already asked for like the ticket size, Nathan or Anatoly. So I feel that some of the people who are watching us right now are the founders, maybe early stage, maybe a little bit later stage. What would your suggestions or any kind of like tips for aspiring entrepreneurs in this domain?
Yeah, good question. I think what I can comment on is Well, I'll comment on a couple of things, but the pitch decks that we get and some of the things that we don't necessarily like per se. So there's two things really. I think one, and this comes back to our criteria in that first bucket of market and market sizing specifically, but we love to see businesses and founders and companies that really have a good grasp of how big their market is, how obtainable it is, and that isn't coming to us and saying, the commercial real estate market is $1 billion in annually, and we're going to obtain a percent of that through our product, and it's going to be 100 million. We really want to see a granular assessment of, here within our reach are these possible kind of partners and customers. Here's how we're going to go after them. Here's how big our obtainable market is from. So it's kind of a bottom up approach, and it shows a really good awareness and also the effort and the time that's been put in. But yeah, so that's one thing. And then I think the second thing we often or we don't see, which we would like to see more, is people being upfront with their weaknesses. It can be, our team's lacking this, or my experience, might not be here, or we're a bit poor in our marketing division, or whatever it might be. But it's being upfront with them and then showing how you are addressing them and you're aware of them and you're improving on them. Like, investors don't expect a shiny, business, especially not at this stage. I don't think there's any flawless businesses in general in the world, but what you want to see is people who are upfront and honest and willing to identify and improve on those areas.
That sounds so familiar, right? Because you're a startup, definitely you are going to sort some things out. But if you at least have your processes, if you're transparent, if you can show that you are learning every day, because that's the beauty. Because if you're a good entrepreneur, if you are dealing with something big, and to be honest, all of the markets are billion-dollar markets anyway. So I think out of like 30,000 applications that we get for like various different programs, I didn't see a market less than maybe 500 million. Like, nobody says that their problem is less than $500 million. So, but unfortunately, not everyone went there just yet. We have great companies. We have few companies about to be unicorns soon, which are our graduates. We are quite proud of them. That's great. But to be honest, like, I'm really happy that you joined today, because one of the reasons that we wanted to make the Proptech program with a lot of different partners is I still teach like innovation in London, in Turkey, in different universities. And when we look for the investment money going to R&D, of course, you do have a lot of R&Ds, but you see like telecoms, insurance companies, banking, healthcare, the money and the investment is too big. So if you go to a bank, then probably you'll have an innovation team of maybe hundreds of people. It is not the same in construction, real estate, or because it's more like a segregated market. Companies are quite big still, but for those kind of efforts, they kind of need this kind of push from different people. And some people are managing the property, some people constructing, some people are maybe providing the solutions or the resources. So I hope this program can enable different types of companies doing something in property industry and push them in an innovation way. And maybe we can have some of the companies who are already applied, maybe some companies you already have in your portfolio as well. Thank you very much, Sam. Thank you for your time. And hope to see you in the jury day.
Absolutely.
Take care. Cheers.